Hi, I'm Megan Magnus. I'm one of the dietitians at Evans Army Community Hospital. This is Bariatric Nutrition Class 1. We are going to be going through just a beginning of the information for the bariatric program on the nutrition side here at Evans Army Community Hospital. If you are new to the program, hopefully everybody has attended the orientation for bariatric surgery. These are your programs that you are going to need to go through before you are allowed to have surgery. You are required to have 3 wellness visits, bariatric orientation, which takes place on the 3rd Thursday of the month. It usually lasts from 12:30 to 3 p.m. and the support group follows at 3 p.m. You have 3 behavioral health visits that are required and nutrition class part 1 and 2. Today I will be teaching nutrition class part 1 and 2. You are required to have a 3rd nutrition appointment prior to your surgery. At this appointment, we will confirm that you do not have any deficiencies with any vitamins, and also that you are prepared and have the knowledge that you need before surgery about nutrition. I do recommend that if you have not completed your bariatric nutrition labs, that you complete those at least 7 to 10 days prior to the 3rd appointment. Preferably before that time, but at least 7 to 10 days prior to that 3rd appointment that you schedule with nutrition. We do give you a nutrition assessment in class 2. I'll be giving handouts for that. The pharmacy requires you to do a 1 to 2 week follow-up prior to surgery, just for medication confirmation and for recommendations they make about changes to your medications. And then you have a final clearance by the surgeon. All of this should be in the binder that you receive from the Bariatric Surgery Program. There are 2 different types of surgeries that we do at Evans Army Community Hospital. Now I will remind you, we are a center of excellence. We do the vertical sleeve gastrectomy or gastric sleeve surgery and the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass or Roux-en-Y. The current stomach actually holds around 32 ounces of volume, or about a quart of food and fluid at one time. So after surgery, your stomach is going to be about 20% of its current size. Your initial meals will only need to be around 1 to 2 ounces. You gradually will progress to 2 to 4 ounces after your surgery when you're increasing your food volume. And your long-term max would be no more than 4 to 8 ounces of food and fluid at one time. That is all your stomach can hold. So we are drastically decreasing the volume of the stomach after this surgery, which means you cannot have very much food or fluid at one time. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about changes that you need to make prior to this surgery. And get started now. Don't wait until later. So, one of the biggest issues most people have is skipping meals. I recommend that you try to start out eating 3 well-balanced meals per day. Now, these meals do not need to be large in volume. In fact, they need to be smaller in portion size, but 3 balanced meals per day. If you currently are not drinking enough fluid, especially hydrating fluids like water, your goal for fluid is supposed to be 48 to 64 ounces per day after surgery. And that is non-caffeinated, sugar-free, non-carbonated fluid. If you have a caffeine addiction, if you like a lot of tea and coffee, I would recommend starting to decrease your coffee and tea intake. After surgery, we do not recommend caffeine intake, especially for the 6 weeks following your surgery. You can gradually have a small amount of caffeine months after surgery, but not too soon. Alcohol. There's no alcohol recommended after surgery for at least 1 year after surgery. Avoid carbonated drinks 1 year after surgery. And that includes things like fizzy soda and even sparkling water. Your protein goal after surgery is 60 to 80 grams of protein per day. So I would recommend that you start monitoring how much protein you're averaging every day. Avoid high-calorie liquids and simple sugars. So this is going to be things like milkshakes, lattes, sugar-sweetened beverages like fruit punch, sweet tea, and soda. Limit fat overall. There is good fat and bad fat, but we need to actually limit both after surgery. Your diet after surgery overall is very low in sugar, very low in fat, and high in protein. Mindful eating. It's not always what we're eating, but how, when, and where we're eating. Savor your food. Take 30 minutes to finish a meal. That is the recommended time to finish whenever you sit down to eat a meal. If you currently are finishing your meals in about 5 to 10 minutes, I recommend setting a timer, setting a goal for maybe 15 minutes, and gradually working your way up to 30 minutes to finish that meal. Notice your food. Notice things like colors and texture and smell, and really enjoy what you're eating. And this will naturally help you slow down and enjoy what you're eating. Notice your body. Are you thirsty instead of hungry? It's always good to see if you're thirsty instead of hungry first. Are you eating when you're not hungry? And a lot of us have this issue. So this is what we call emotional eating. Eating out of stress, boredom, frustration, fatigue. There's many reasons why we eat, and it's not always related to hunger. So asking yourself before you start to eat if something else is going on besides hunger is a good thing to practice. How can you tell if you are full and satisfied? That is a good question to ask yourself. Are you getting overly full at meals? Are you slowing down and making sure you're just satisfied? Portion control. This is really important to practice before surgery because it's going to be necessary after you have your bariatric surgery. I would suggest trying out some prepackaged foods to help you with portion control. Things like small snack bags, smaller bowls and cups to help you with portioning out your food and not going back for seconds. Decrease distractions at the mealtime. So sitting at the table without TV, phone, computers, any type of distraction. That way you can focus on your food and focus on your hunger cues and eating. Change how you eat. So eat slowly and chew your food. This will help you reach that goal of 30 minutes to finish a meal. I would suggest even counting your chews. So 20 to 30 chews for each bite that you take. No multitasking. Again, watching TV, cell phones, and computer. Try to cut that out or cut it down as much as you can. Maybe consider buying new plates. Small section plates, toddler plates, or salad plates are really great to use when you're trying to decrease your portion size of your meals. And maybe consider using baby spoons, cocktail forks. That can actually help with decreasing your bites. Portion sizes. These are just a really great visual. I do recommend that after surgery, everyone needs to be measuring their foods and making sure that they're getting the right portions. You're not always able to measure and weigh your foods like when you're going out to eat, when you're going to a friend's house, when you're at work. So I would recommend being aware of what a portion size looks like. If you make a fist, this is about the size of 1 cup. The palm of your hand is about the size of 3 to 4 ounces of meat, or the size of a deck of cards is about 3 to 4 ounces of meat. Your thumb is about 1 ounce, so that would be like a serving of cheese. The tip of your thumb is 1 teaspoon. So that would be like if you were to do a teaspoon of low-fat mayonnaise on your sandwich. And a handful of any type of snack, 1 handful of like nuts or pretzels, that would be 1 to 2 ounces of a snack, which is a portion. A tennis ball, that is the size of about a half cup, and so that would be 1 portion of a fruit or a vegetable. Self-monitoring. I encourage you to start keeping a food journal because after surgery, it's going to be a requirement. We require that everyone keep a food journal tracking their protein, fluid, and calorie intake every day. You can try out some of these applications, MyFitnessPal, Lose It, or the Bariatric application. If you want to, you can start by keeping a written food journal of your own. Just writing down what you eat. It doesn't have to be portion sizes yet, but at least start by writing down what you're eating every day so that you can be more mindful of your food content. Maybe you can gradually work toward using one of these electronic applications and measuring out your food. That way you're used to it before you have your surgery. Tips when eating out. So it's not realistic to think that we're never going to eat out again after surgery. That happens still. I do recommend that you have a plan and go prepared. So don't go starving to the restaurant. That's never a good idea. When we go starving somewhere, we usually end up overeating. Avoid that bread and chip basket whenever you can. Remember that is given to you complimentary. It's not required. You can ask the waiter to take that bread and chip basket off of the table or not bring it to you. And start with a salad or broth/tomato-based soup. These are going to be your lowest calorie options instead of an appetizer. Most appetizers are deep fried, high in fat usually. And I would recommend starting out with the salad or the broth-based tomato-based soup instead. Know what you're going to order ahead of time. If you can, have a plan. So if you're going to a chain restaurant that has a menu online, you can look up the calorie content of the foods that are listed. Slow down and enjoy. And order half of your food to go or share the meal. This will help with portion control. After surgery, this is going to be necessary to order half of the portion size or take half to go or share that meal with someone. Eating at home. Not much different from eating at a restaurant, but we still need to work on portion control. I would recommend sitting at the table as often as possible if that's available to you. Dishing food up away from the table. Not putting the extra servings of food in front of you. You are less likely to give yourself a second portion if you have the food away. Another suggestion would be fixing your plate, sitting down at the table, and putting the extra food already away in the fridge. That way you're not tempted to go back for that second portion. Drink water with your meal to help you with slowing down and getting full quicker on less food and more fluid. This is only a pre-surgery requirement. After surgery, we are going to recommend that you do not drink fluids with your meals because you need to focus on getting your solid food in and not filling up on fluid. Eat as a family as often as possible. That is always encouraged. If you do have children or other relatives living with you, it helps encourage good, healthy eating behaviors. And start at home. If you would like to, I would suggest cleaning out your refrigerator and your pantry, kind of giving them a makeover. This is a great thing to do to prepare for surgery and getting ready for this change. High-fat, high-sugar foods that are calorie-dense should be taken out of that pantry and out of the refrigerator. and not purchased. Cookies, candy, ice cream, soda, juice, chips, those are things that are usually calorie dense and not high in nutrients that we are trying to get rid of in our diet. Stock the shelves with nutrient-rich foods, so nutrient-dense, things that have lots of vitamins, fiber, and lean protein. Low-fat dairy, high-fiber grains, fruits and vegetables, lean meats, and healthy oils like olive oil or canola oil. Those are all great options to keep in your refrigerator and your pantry. Start weaning on caffeine, alcohol, and carbonated beverages. Remember that these are not going to be allowed post-surgery. Choose things like water, sugar-free waters, or even powdered mixes that are sugar-free. Shopping at your local grocery store. Like anywhere else, you need to go with a plan. So start by making a grocery list. In and out is quick, or being quick is helping you save money also. We tend to not buy extra things that are not very healthy for us when we go with a plan to the grocery store. Shop in season as often as possible. This is just a tip for getting produce that is in season. It tastes better usually and it's a little bit cheaper. And don't go hungry to the grocery store. Just like you don't want to go hungry to a restaurant, we tend to impulse buy when we go hungry to the grocery store. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. That's usually where the healthier foods are. Things like your grains, your meats, your dairy, your fruits, and your vegetables are going to be on the perimeter of the grocery store. And when you buy packaged items, try to buy foods that have 5 ingredients or less. Those are going to be less processed most of the time. When you're shopping in the grocery store, these are some tips for checking out your food label and buying a better product. When you look at a food label, you're going to want to look at the portion size and the servings per container. When we follow along with the serving size, we know how many calories we're consuming. Now, after surgery, you're not going to be able to eat a full portion size most of the time that's on a package label. But you follow the same rules of the nutrients that are listed. Highly processed foods usually have several ingredients in them, so much greater than 5 ingredients. Products that contain excessive ingredients. Products need to be less than 3 grams of fat per serving and less than 5 grams of sugar per serving as often as you can after surgery. If these products that you're consuming the majority of the time are greater than 3 grams of fat and greater than 3 grams of sugar per serving, you should not be eating them after surgery. Dietary goals prior to surgery. Avoid those added sugars. Added sugar comes in many forms. Now, these are just a few examples of words that are used for added sugar. High fructose corn syrup, brown or white cane sugar, maple syrup, molasses, honey, and agave. Those are all forms of added sugar which add on excessive calories. Naturally occurring sugar in the form of fruit, milk, yogurt, whole grains, and starchy vegetables are much better choices to make after surgery when you choose carbohydrate. Limit all fat. So remember, like I said earlier on, we want to limit total fat. Good fat is better more often, which would be your unsaturated fat. And foods that are high in saturated fat need to be less than 2 grams per serving. This is your bad fat that usually comes from animals and animal products. Increase your protein. Like I was saying earlier in today's presentation, 60 to 80 grams per day is your goal after surgery for protein. Remember, these should be lean sources. Skinless chicken breast, lean sirloin, or round, greater than 93% lean, any type of ground meat, Eggs, low-fat cheese. These are just a few examples of lean sources of protein that we should be focusing on. Change the way you drink. Carbonated beverages create gas in the stomach, and they are not recommended for at least 1 year after surgery. Using a straw actually produces more gas in the stomach. Try to sip your fluid and not gulp. And no chewing gum after surgery. Remember, caffeine is not recommended for at least the 6 weeks after surgery, if not further. And if you are going to start consuming caffeine after your 6-week period, it needs to be very small amounts. I mean, no more than about a 4 ounce to 6 ounce cup of preferably tea over coffee. Caffeine is an irritant, and it can actually disrupt and prevent proper healing. It also decreases the absorption of iron, and it is dehydrating. So it is not counted toward our hydrating beverages. When you're choosing a product that is less than 10 calories per serving, which is an 8 ounce portion, that is an okay beverage. That means that it has most likely decreased the amount of sugar, or is using an artificial sweetener for decreasing the sugar in the beverage. The bottom line when choosing a beverage, no to very low carbohydrates or sugar, no caffeine, no carbonation, and choosing less than 10 calories per serving. Now let me give you some examples. So remember, our fluid goal is 48 to 64 ounces per day. These are some signs of dehydration: dark urine, headache, dizziness, and fatigue. And these are some of the beverages that we are trying to avoid. You should start avoiding these beverages now: soda, fruit juice, lemonade, sweet tea, Kool-Aid, sports drinks like Gatorade and Powerade, and whole or 2% milk, which are very high in fat content. A better choice would be things like Crystal Light, Propel or G2 or Gatorade Zero, sugar-free Kool-Aid, unsweetened decaffeinated tea, 1% or skim milk. These are much better beverage choices. Just a reminder that after surgery, there are no fluids for 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after you eat. You have to set a timer initially to make sure that you're not drinking all the way up until meal times. You should not be drinking during the meal after surgery. This prevents us from getting too full on fluid, and then we're unable to meet our protein intake. So no fluids 30 minutes prior to that meal, and no fluids for 30 minutes after you eat. Supplementation for life. So vitamins are required after surgery. Remember that we are eating much less than we were prior to surgery. So that means that we are not getting all of the micronutrients or vitamins from our foods that we're consuming. And supplements are required. After surgery, there is decreased absorption related to the surgery. So it is important to take your multivitamin and your additional vitamins we recommend daily. After surgery, for 6 weeks, you are required to take a liquid or chewable supplement. This is on page 30 through 32 of your bariatric guidebook. I will talk more about the guidebook at the end of today's class so that you're aware of what you'll be getting during class 1. Multivitamin with iron. You have to take a multivitamin with iron that has 30 to 60 milligrams per day of iron content. This should not be a gummy. Remember, liquid or chewable supplement, not gummy. With most multivitamins, if you're getting a pediatric multivitamin like a Flintstone chewable, you would need to take 2 per day to get the adult dosage. Calcium citrate. You need 1,200 to 1,500 milligrams per day of calcium citrate. It is better absorbed by your body. This would be 500 to 600 milligrams per dose. That would be the maximum amount at one time. Vitamin D3. You need an additional 3,000 international units daily of vitamin D3. And B12. 350 minimum to a maximum of 500 micrograms per day of B12. That is in addition to what is in your multivitamin. Do not take your iron with your calcium supplement or dairy foods. Calcium decreases the absorption of iron, so these two should be taken separately. Buyer beware. So there are better products out there than some products. Vitamin supplements are not regulated by the FDA. They fall in between being a food and a medication. There are products that have been third-party tested. They usually will have an NSF or a USP label on them. If you would like to know more about third-party testing and about better products, the source down here at the bottom, consumerlab.com, would be a good go-to. I do not recommend buying discounted or cheap vitamins. That is going to decrease the potency. These are some studies that have been conducted about buying ultra cheap products and products that are not third-party tested. Sample regimens. These are just some examples of taking your multivitamins for maximum absorption and better tolerance too. You might find that you tolerate these vitamins when we split them up a lot easier. If you're taking a multivitamin with iron, you can take a multivitamin, both of them, 2 of them, at breakfast and take your additional B12. At lunch, you can take your first dosage of calcium, 500 to 600 micrograms, and your vitamin D. Calcium, you can take the other dosage at dinner. Now, every calcium supplement will have a small amount of vitamin D added. Vitamin D helps the absorption of calcium. So that will be vitamin D3, usually 400 to about 600 international units added to your calcium supplement. And that's typical. I do recommend that there be a 3 to 4 hour period between lunch and dinner when you split up your calcium, or whenever you're splitting up your calcium. That helps with the absorption of that calcium supplement. If for some reason you're taking a multivitamin that doesn't have iron and you want to take a multivitamin or you want to take iron separately, you can do that. Breakfast, you could do 1 multivitamin, B12, calcium, and vitamin D. Lunch, take your iron supplement. So this could be anywhere from 30 to 60 milligrams of iron. And then at dinner, you would take your second dosage of your multivitamin, calcium, and vitamin D. Exercise and weight loss. Exercise is encouraged for everyone having bariatric surgery before and after. We recommend that you start out with a goal of walking about 2 miles every day. These are some of the benefits of exercise before surgery. This helps with building lungs and prepares body for major events and prevents complications. After surgery, it's important for weight maintenance. It helps with maintaining muscle mass and metabolic rate, skin and body toning, mood and energy level, and prevents surgery complications. We do encourage you to start with the walking, and then after surgery, we'll get to the point that we'll encourage strength training. I will leave that information up to the Army Wellness Center though. These are some common mistakes after surgery. Drinking with meals, drinking soda or alcohol, not taking your multivitamin supplements, not consuming adequate water or protein, grazing or snacking all day, so mindless eating after surgery. You should not feel physical hunger. That is very uncommon. More often, people experience more of a mental hunger. So that desire to eat that's not related to physical need to eat. Not exercising, too many carbohydrates, or too much sugar. Assuming surgery has cured your obesity, remember that surgery is a tool, and all of this other information is so important to make sure that you are successful with that tool. So make changes now. Eat smaller portions of healthy foods. Do not drink your calories. Increase your fluid and protein intake. And at the beginning of Class 1, I will be giving you the Evans Army Community Hospital Bariatric Nutrition Guidebook. So I'm going to recommend that after you attend Class 1, you go through that guidebook as your homework. What's next? After you attend Class 1, you will be recommended to attend Class 2, which will take place the following week. When you are scheduled for Class 1, you should also be scheduled for Class 2 at the same time by the Nutrition Care Division. So the next support group will take place the third Thursday at 3 p.m. There will be usually 1, 2, or 3 providers at that support group, and there usually will be guest speakers there, people that have had surgery already, sharing their stories. If you have not completed your labs already prior to Class 1, I encourage you to get them done as soon as possible. These labs are ordered by General Surgery after your first appointment with them. This is the end of Class 1 for bariatric surgery.